UvaldeRadio.net. Good morning. I'm Robert McGill here with another special treat, another People of Uvalde feature interview. This time, it's a doozy, a big one, big VIP in town. Really excited about this because this gentleman actually affects my child's life. So this is very exciting for me. Uvalde High School Principal, Mr. Randall Harris. How you doing, sir? Welcome.
It is great. Good day. Thank you for having me talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to get on with us. We're excited. From what I understand, it's National Principals Month. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir. The state of Texas recognizes this as well. It talks about the important things that principals do and recognize us for this month.
So have you gotten lots of free Starbucks and like apples brought to you? Everybody treating you real good?
My secretary gives me chocolate, and that's all I need.
Very nice. Well, Mr. Harris, again, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Again, you're the principal at Uvalde High School. Now, before we get into your story, I just want to clarify. So you've been with the district for a bit. You were interim principal, right, until recently, and then they announced that you are full-time official.
Yes, sir. So I retired as a principal right before COVID started. I had good timing on that. And I moved back here to Uvalde. I was born and raised here. And I just told them I would help out anytime I could. And then back in January, whenever the principal went to San Antonio, they asked me if I would step in for a little bit. I said, absolutely, glad to help any way I can.
Well, very good. So now you are a former Uvalde resident. Let's go ahead and get into your story. So you're from Uvalde. You graduated at Uvalde High School, right? Back in the day?
Yes, sir. I graduated in class of 1981.
Nice. Very good. So what happened? Well, first of all, let's go back. What was your experience like as a young man, child, growing up in the streets of Uvalde, Texas?
Well, it was a great experience, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. I thought Uvalde was the center of the universe. One of the things that we did growing up is my dad was a rancher, and so he instilled with me hard work. As soon as school was out, the day school was out, I went out to the ranch, and I didn't get to see another paved street until 1 week before school started. So whenever school came back, I was very excited and motivated to learn.
Is that essentially what inspired you to become an educator, or is there a more complex story there?
No, I always wanted to be a teacher from the very beginning. And I told my dad, I said, I want to be a teacher. And he said, a teacher? He said, you'll never make any money doing that. And I said, well, that's what I want to do. And he was helpful on that. He said, son, if that's what you want to do, he said, I'll do whatever I can to take you, because it's really good to have an air-conditioned job instead of an outdoor job like us.
Nice.
I said, yes, sir.
Very, very good. So what was that journey like? Graduated 81 right here at Uvalde High School. Where did your education, I guess your furthering of education, take you? And then when did you land your very first gig as a teacher?
So my dad was very kind. He said that he would pay for me to go to any college in the United States as long as it was Texas A&M. So that was my one and only choice, and I was happy to go. I was a member of the Corps of Cadets there, and I graduated with the degrees in history and English, and back then they didn't have alternative certification, so once I did that, I had to go back 2.5 years to get my education courses. So I graduated from Texas A&M in 1985 and then worked on my education after that and started working. My very first job was right there in College Station, which was good for me because I married a local girl over there, and I worked for A&M Consolidated High School. I worked there for 5 years. I was a football coach and a baseball coach and a track coach, and one of my good honors was to be on the state championship football team. I got to coach those kids to a state championship in 1991.
Wow, very good. So you're a well-rounded educator. That's very, very cool. And apparently, UCISD on both bookends of your life, plus A&M in the middle. You're kind of been bleeding maroon for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. My first job out of college was at A&M Consolidated. They were maroon and white. And then I worked for Magnolia High School for 15 years, and they were maroon and white. So maroon and white for almost all of my time.
Wow, very good. Well, let's go and talk about that resume. As far as I'm sure you've been at a few districts, most teachers that get to a point where you are now have kind of have jumped around a bit. So give us your experience as far as where you taught and what you were teaching.
So So when I first started teaching, I was teaching social studies classes at A&M Consolidated and English. And then I taught Spanish I went to a small 1A school that needed a teacher, and I taught Spanish and ESL along with other social studies classes. And then after 11 years, I went into administration and was an assistant principal for a few years. Then I was principal of a 9th grade academy. We had our own school within a school. And from there, I went to Conroe High School, where I was a principal there as well. So I ended up with 30 years in education. I had 19 in administration.
Wow.
And yeah.
Now tell me this. I feel like this might be an interesting question. Going from an educator basically to a day in, day out teacher, instructor, and then shifting into administration, do you have to remind yourself to remember, what it's like to basically be that instructor daily? I mean, I'm sure the roles are very different, but similar. I guess I'm asking because, like, sometimes, when you're like the regular, name tag guy work, and then you get promoted to management, sometimes you got to remember, where you've been, where you come from, and maybe it helps you manage the people better. Is that something that you are conscious of?
Yeah, so it's funny. I just had that conversation with an administrator today, and I said we have to remember, who we are and what we are and all the different parts. And when I say this part, I don't mean it bad, but I said, okay, we got to understand the teachers are the dog, and we administrators are the tail. Okay, we don't wag the dog wags us. They are the important part of the thing. We need to make sure that what we're doing is eliminating any barriers that prevent a teacher from doing their job. And that's what I believe, that's my mindset is. My job is to eliminate all the barriers that prevent teachers from doing their job and meet all the legitimate needs that they have.
Well, man, it sounds like you're doing a great job. Again, we're talking to Principal Randall Harris over at Uvalde High School. It's National Principals Month, so this is exciting. And again, sir, thank you for your service. For doing what you do, really just to help out the youth in Uvalde and beyond. So you started this year. Did you hit the ground running? Did you have to make some changes? What has your impact been? And it's not been that long, but what impact, if any, have you made so far? Or are you kind of just chilling, just kind of observing right now?
So what I do is I try to bring in what my vision of the school is, which is I want Uvalde High School to be a flagship of excellence. Wherever we go, I want people to understand that they're going for second place because Uvalde High School is always first place.
Nice.
Now, when you're a new person in, the first thing that you need to do is you need to come and you need to observe. You don't come in and say, I'm going to change all these things. You come in and you see what's working right. How are we growing? Where are we doing well? And where do we have needs for improvement? So you talk, you listen, and then you bring input that you have, and you try to, again, you don't go in there to say, we're changing everything just because I'm here. We only change things if we look and see that these things aren't working well. Well,
that sounds like a great game plan. As far as your assessment thus far, what would you say our strengths are, and then what would you say our weaknesses are as far as your campus, Uvalde High School?
Yeah, so I think some of the strengths that we have right now is, first of all, I want to commend our tennis team. Our tennis team made it 3 rounds this year, and they just exude excellence. Nice. I think our teachers are doing a great job in the classroom. I think the number one concern that I have for us is really attendance of students. It's not everybody, but it's some. And the problem is, if we have kids who miss 2 days a week and then they come back and they say, I'm behind, and it just snowballs on them. Right. So the number one thing that I think that we need to do as a community is work on eliminating reasons why students have to be absent and trying to find different ways to help students. Because if I have them here, and that's what I learned whenever I was in school, if I was in class every day, when it got to be that test time, I had a general idea what was going on. Mm-hmm. But if I miss 2 or 3 days a week on that, and that test comes up, there's no way that I know what's going on.
And the Uvalde CISD, the district, and I've been dealing with communicating with Anne-Marie for years now. The district has done a great job of encouraging attendance, and even with the yard signs and, the incentives and whatnot. But then all of a sudden, and I feel like the community that message was getting out there, but then womp-wah, pandemic happens, which I'm sure has a big impact on attendance. How has the pandemic affected your job and that goal?
Yeah, so it had a big impact. So what we're looking at is we're seeing that some students have learning gaps because they've been away from straight instruction with a teacher for the good part of a year and a half. We had virtual learning for the kids for a while, and I can tell you that the kids that are motivated and know where they're going, they do pretty good with that. But kids that aren't quite sure where they're going yet, they struggle, and that's the same way with anybody. If it's just left up to, okay, I'm going to do it. You know, a lot of times we got to remember these are 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. You know, they don't always see the big picture. You know, they aren't looking where I'm going to be 5 years from now. They just look at right now.
Yeah.
And so that's just the challenge. So we know we have some learning gaps there, and we've got plans right now. We have targeted tutorials working on those kids who weren't successful with the STAR last year, and we're working on trying to bridge the gap for those students.
Well, very good. Sounds like you got, well, you know, former coach, you got a game plan, right? So very, very cool. Again, we've got Principal Randall Harris on the phone right now. And you know what? This is homecoming weekend. Let's go ahead and get into that because I think you said you had a meeting to get to. So quickly, let's talk about all the homecoming festivities. Tonight's the game, tomorrow the dance. What details can you share with us so that you kind of know off the top of your head?
Well, I want everybody to be sure and come early because 6 o'clock we're going to recognize all those sweetheart and beaux from all the different clubs and organizations on campus. And that's one thing that I would love to encourage all students. Man, find some way that you want to join here. If you want a skate club, we'll find a skate club. If you want a guitar club, make a guitar club. But we'll recognize all the sweethearts and beaux starting at 6 o'clock. And then the game will start at 7, and we'll recognize the homecoming queen. And we have something new this year. We're going to have a homecoming king. We're going to recognize king and queen at halftime, and then our band will do their outstanding competition at the end of the game. Our band got all first divisions and advanced from district and is going on to region competition on October 30th.
Wow, that's some great halftime entertainment then, huh? Very good.
Yes, sir. So we're going to do something a little bit different. You know, I think that there was just not enough time for those kids to have a dance, just have it right there on Friday. We're moving the dance from after the game to be on Saturday.
Nice.
So that way those kiddos don't have to try to rush over anything. Give them time all day to get prepared. And then we'll have that here at the high school from 7 to 11 on Saturday.
And that's easier for the parents, too. So we appreciate that, sir. That's awesome. Yeah, let them get all gussied up. A little bit more free time to do it right. So very cool. So again, now as far as the homecoming dance, again, Saturday night at the auditorium, right? I mean, in the cafeteria.
It's going to be, yes, sir. It's going to be in the cafeteria. And some of the students ask, you know, well, what do I wear? And we'll say just the same thing like you're going to prom.
And let's say any particular rules, things that we need to know about, parents should know about, you know, to tell their kids.
Yeah, I would just say be sure if you're planning on dropping off your kiddo to be sure to be prompt about 11 o'clock to pick them up. We'll be finishing at that time. Want to make sure I understand there's no in and out privilege. So come in, stay as long as you want. But if you decide that you want to go home, then you go ahead and go home after that. And
that is $10, right? And that does benefit the class of 2022?
Yes, sir. So what it'll do, it benefits the senior class, and they'll use proceeds from this to help present prom. Very, very good. All right. Well, that's fantastic information. And one final question, Mr. Harris. Now, you know, as an administrator, as a teacher, parents, I mean, I think that we're talking about attendance. I think one of the core issues with that attendance thing is parent engagement, you know, and I'm sure that you encourage parents to reach out. If parents want to talk to you, they have they have questions, what is the best way to reach out to you, and how do you suggest they go about that? Well, they can call. They call up here at the high school. I want to tell you, I do have a family engagement event coming up next week, so I want to push that up. But my telephone number here at the high school is 591-2950, and my extension is 6129. And they can call anytime. I'm pretty good about getting a call back just within a couple hours, just as soon as I can get a hold of you. But But I'm doing a family engagement night on October 29th. We're going to do a pumpkin carving event. So we want all our students that want to come to bring their parents and bring their younger siblings up here to the high school in the courtyard. Bring a pumpkin, or we'll have a few over here, and then we're going to show them how to make designs on their pumpkin so they can have that for Halloween.
That sounds fantastic. And one final kind of two-part question here. If you had one thing that you wanted to get, a message you wanted to get out to both parents and students, what would that be? Word of advice, or just, something to put out there?
I think the best thing that I would say, this is for my students, if you can be anything in the world, anything that you want, the number one thing I wish you would be first is be kind. I think kindness matters. When you're kind, then great things happen to you. People are kind to you, and it just sets a positive attitude for you. For my parents, the one thing that I would tell them is, I want you here. I want you to come up to high school. I want you to be a part of it. I want you, kids have a funny way of showing it. Oh, Mom, no, I don't want you up here. Yeah. They want to see you up here, and we want to have you up here. If you ever have any questions, just call my number. I'll be glad to talk to you.
And I got to say, I do have a child in 10th grade at your campus, and she tries to be as engaged as she can be, as do I. But I got to say this, just from the parents' perspective, since you've taken the reins, you send out these weekly emails with information about all the events, whether it's scholastic or athletic stuff. I mean, it's all there. I mean, you do send like a weekly update, and it's so great to get it direct from the guy in charge, sitting in the office. And I think that's fantastic. So, and I feel like that kind of transparency and communication should, trickle down, right, to the rest of your...
Yes, sir. I think most of my teachers are noting the same thing. I send one to them as well, as far as what we're coming up. The best thing that I can do as an administrator is let them know what's coming up so that they can prepare for it. And I want to tell any parents, if you're not getting that weekly calendar, that means we don't have the right email for you. So you be sure and call me up and let me know, and I'll get that right email in, and we'll make sure that you get that weekly calendar every week.
Well, Mr. Harris, thank you so much for your time. I know, like I said, you got a meeting to get to, so thank you so much. I will not hold you back any longer. We will see you this homecoming weekend, and thank you so much for the job you're doing for our Uvalde High School students, okay?
Yes, sir. Call anytime.
You got it. All right, it's going to wrap it up here. People of Uvalde with Principal Randall Harris on UvaldeRadio.net.